Roll Tide, everybody. And for the first time, we're not Roll Tide Pods anymore. This is now Cover Crimson, and we appreciate you guys being here. Still part of Disrupt Media, but we had a rebrand today, and we'll talk a little bit about that Alabama football practice. And the good thing is that they rebranded and they kept us. We're still part of what's going on. We didn't get fired, Jake.
Shocker.
There's a few times along the way, and I think we're like over 80 episodes, where I thought we might be pushing our limits a little bit, but we made it again.
Yeah, they hadn't fired us yet. Leads me to believe this rebranding decision may be another bad decision.
Guys, and I'm sure you saw it on the next round. Clint Lamb, who is kind of heading up this with Reed Taylor, talked about it with the guys, and basically we're just going to cover Alabama. And there's a message board now component that is going to be part of what we're doing. We'll have exclusive content that you'll only get with a subscription. And then, our show will remain free for you guys right here. So the YouTube channel and the message board going to be really your spot to check out Alabama. I know there's a ton of places that you guys are, probably where you put your money and all that. And I know that like the dollar's tight, but if you can afford it, we'd love to have you be a part of what we're doing at Cover Crimson. Clint Lamb's been a good friend of mine for a long time, and someone I really believe in. He's part of the team. They were talking about Mike Johnson being on. I love Mike. You know that. Obviously the entire crew, which you can check out. But we'll just keep rocking and rolling. I mean, I feel like we're like the elder statesmen now of this thing. There's a bunch of people that are jumping on board. Do you have any comments on that?
What show number is this?
I think it's show number. You'd ask me that. I'll look it up. It's definitely show number 80 something. I'm going to say off the top of my head that this is show number 83. What do you think?
I was going to say 70s or 80s. I felt like you just said it. So
I don't know yet. I mean, I'm looking it up right now. Oh, okay. I see which one. Show number 87.
There you go.
Can you believe that? Man, we've been kicking some ass, dude.
God, it's flown by.
Man, I remember the first time I
outside of these summer ones, man. These summer ones are kind of tough when they're when we're going remote during the summertime. You're digging for stuff to talk about.
There's a ton of stuff to talk about now.
Football wise.
I remember the first time I texted you, I was like, man, I wonder if this guy's ever going to text me back. Now we're like 87 shows in. We're closing in on 100 shows, man.
I had seen a couple of your YouTube shorts. I was like, I don't know about this
dude. I came across this kind of weird.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, man, it's exciting, kind of doing some cool stuff and a lot to talk about. Let's talk some Alabama football. Off today, but yesterday, moving through camp, they went inside. It was kind of a story, They said that they were going to do an inside day because they wanted to rest the field a little bit. And then I got people saying, "Hey, I don't want those guys inside because they need to be used to that really hot Alabama heat." Do you remember that ever happening where they were like, "Hey, we want to give the field a break a little bit"?
Only time I really remember practicing inside was when it was raining. I mean, and I remember, the worst part about practice was breaking that first sweat. I mean, I remember going through the flex lines, just stretch lines, and sitting there in pads just thinking, I mean, how is it humanly possible for it to be this hot out here and for us to make it through 2.5 hours of practice right now, especially those 300-pound guys? And then by the time you get through the second period, you actually start getting to the football stuff, it kind of just all flowed together and practice went by pretty quickly. But I always remember those first 3 periods were the worst. The warm-up periods, the drills that the quote unquote boring drills. Once you got past that and you got to the real reps, it kind of flew by, but by the time you got into meetings later on that afternoon and night, it was a struggle trying to stay awake. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's all new to Coach DeBoer and his staff. He's got some holdovers from the Saban era, but it feels totally different. They're practicing in the morning. They've got music there. They've got media availability. I don't think, and from what I've heard, I don't think the intensity's changed at all. I just think that it is a new era of being able to recruit, and you need to be able to recruit any possible way that you can. And having, recruits and media having you in the public and people being able to see what you're doing, I think matters.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a picture the other day. They things have changed because when we were practicing, there's a condo like right across the street behind the covered fence, and there used to be security watching that balcony the entire time, making sure nobody was out there watching us practice. Watching the real reps, and I saw a picture the other day of people, flocked all over that balcony just to watch practice.
Yeah.
There used to be a real high sense of security around getting into a practice or seeing what's going on, and I do like the a little more access, but still, when you get into those periods where you're really showing teams what you're doing and offering a more behind the scenes look, it probably needs to stay just within the complex, which is what I think they're doing. I think they're kicking everybody out after the fourth period. Now,
Yeah.
people watching from the balcony are going to get to see all they want to see, I guess.
Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, I know that's something that Saban really worried about, and they should. I mean, you can pick up stuff from being able to watch practice, but there's balconies over there. People are going to be able to do that, and at the end of the day, I feel like as much as you want to be secretive, you got to execute. And a lot of times in football, and this, if they know it's coming, but you execute it, there's nothing they can do about it.
Yeah, I mean, again, for the most part, you kind of know what teams are going to do. I mean, just based on what a coach has done his entire career, you kind of got a good feeling for how they're going to line up and attack you offensively and defensively. But there's a few wrinkles in there. Every game is kind of like what I mentioned in our last podcast about Lane. He's got certain looks and shifts and motions that he'll do, throughout an entire game, but he will, toy with you with those movements and kind of lull you to sleep for that touchdown shot. That as long as it's executed, it'll be a touchdown, and that's what you worry about. Coaches or outsiders seeing and getting out to the people you're playing. But I was, it's funny. I was talking to somebody about practice the other day, and they were telling me that the assistant coaches, especially on defense, have been really, really aggressive. Have been pretty aggressive on, in terms of intensity. And it's funny to me, it used to be Coach Saban on defense was the one that was, driving the train. He was getting after people's asses if they weren't, all out all the time. And don't get me wrong, there were, Coach Sinceri, he was one of those. I mean, he was on players like, every play, if you weren't doing right, he was all over you. But there was also a sense of the assistant coaches being the ones that kind of pulled you aside and talked to you and went through what you messed up. Coach Saban would be the one, he'd bring the hammer, and then the assistant coach would kind of walk you over and talk to you, But it seems like, right now it's kind of the opposite. You got assistant coaches just getting after players, and and Coach DeBoer's he's coaching, very intently and focused, but he's not quite as energetic or aggressive as Coach Saban used to be, which is, I think I think obviously coaches are effective in a multitude of different ways, and you either fall into the aggressive line or the line that kind of pushes the message, stays focused, and stays even keel. And I think both approaches work very well. But it's funny to hear about that somewhat of a shift in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, no, I think that you're right. I mean, it's a different leadership style, but I think it's a good leadership style. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
when you can take, you've got to be your own person. And Coach Saban, that's his personality. Like he likes to chew asses. I mean, how great was it when he chewed Lane Kiffin's ass? And he's another coach. I mean, like it didn't matter. He wanted things a certain way, and he liked being the guy to do that. You can tell that that's not Coach DeBoer's personality.
yeah,
His personality is kind of like he's more reserved. I don't think he wants to be the guy that's getting on people. That's just not who he is. So you have other people to do that.
yeah.
And honestly, I like what I see so far from Coach DeBoer. And yesterday, Nick Sheridan, the offensive coordinator, was talking about Coach DeBoer, and answered a question, and then he got into why he likes him so much. And you could tell there was a genuine love and respect that Coach Sheridan had for Coach DeBoer. And I feel like it was hard for Coach Saban to keep assistants around because he worked so hard, because a lot of the people that he had with him ended up at head coaches. They would poach Alabama staff. There were years where you felt like it was more hired mercenaries than it was people that really wanted to be there to help Alabama, to help Nick Saban. With Coach DeBoer, and I guess part of this is where he is right now in his career, but I definitely feel like this staff and some of the guys on this staff really are glad that he's the head coach and that they're here working with him.
Yeah, I mean, look, Coach Saban had the way that he approached everything was I feel like you're either on or you're off, and he's going to outwork anyone that works for him. He's going to be the driver of that train, and he's going to win no matter what, whether you're on board or not, which is, I mean, that's pretty much the ultimate leader, right? I mean, that's a guy that is undeniable. And like we've discussed before, in this day and age, he was able to get away with it because he is who he is, and everybody respects that and understands, his approach and what he brings to the table, and and again with him at Alabama, either you come to Alabama and you win, or somebody else will come and fill your shoes and win instead of you. So he had a unique situation because of who he was, and the kind of person he was, coach he was, the work ethic he had. I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer doesn't have that, but his approach is different. And like you said, I think guys, really enjoy being around that type atmosphere, and hopefully he can win at the same level that Coach Saban did with that different style.
It's going to be fun to watch. One player that came with him from Washington to Alabama is, one of the guys that we've kind of kept an eye on, and that's wide receiver Germie Bernard. And he's a guy that I'm expecting to be an impact player for Alabama. He's a guy who you can put him as a running back. He's got speed, slot. He can really do a lot of different things with his versatility. He was the fourth or fifth leading receiver last year, and you had three guys that were on that Washington team that NFL guys. But he came over with Kalen DeBoer, one of the players that transferred in, and that tells you something. I mean, these guys like playing for him, and would leave Washington to come to Alabama. But when you hear of, or you think about someone like that with a lot of versatility, what do you think about that?
Well, to me, a guy that's coming in from Washington, obviously Coach DeBoer wouldn't have brought him with him if he didn't believe in him, didn't think he'd be, bring positives to the team and help build, his new platform or his legacy at Alabama, with the traditions and I guess customs that he wants his team to have. So I mean, just him signing off and bringing him to Alabama says that this is a good guy. He's a tough player, and he's the kind of guy that Coach DeBoer wants. And at the same time, having a receiver, especially in a young receiver room, that already knows the system. You watch him in interviews; he seems to be a good communicator, a guy that will be helpful to guys that don't truly understand the system yet. We had Richard Mullaney, my senior year, and although he wasn't, he was brand new. Him being a fifth-year guy, he understood route running. He understood how to get open. He understood, leverage and how to use his body to make plays. One of the best at using his body to find a way to catch the ball. And so, a guy that can come in, I guess they don't. We'll have a few signals. I'm sure we'll have to, but to help out with signals, help out with alignment. How to run routes in certain situations, and explain that from a player's perspective rather than a coach's perspective goes a long way. And I think guys really understand that more when you got a coach on the field in a uniform.
Practice number 7 today. Practice number 6 was yesterday. Practice number 7 today, not open to the media, but a lot of these practices have been open to the media. And I think that it's, like we talked about it. I mean, it is pretty cool to get a chance to just kind of, look in and see what's going on with this team. I'm really excited about what's going on with the offensive line. And I feel like it's going to be the best offensive line in the country. I just have this gut feeling. I think, you talk about Parker Brailsford. Yeah, he might not be the biggest guy, but he's one of the strongest guys on the football field. And, he comes in with All-American accolades at center. Tyler Booker, who you have to love. I mean, not just because he's an absolute, beast on the line, but he's one of the guys that kept this team together. Would you appreciate that? I mean, you spent a lot of time with the O-line. They never get enough credit. Caden Proctor's part of this. I mean, you're going to have guys that aren't even starting that are probably going to rotate in that are going to be good. And when I look at this team, I feel like as excellent as Milroe can be, as solid as the running game is going to be, I feel like this team's going to win or lose at the line of scrimmage, and I feel like they're going to win on the offensive line.
Yeah, I think a lot of good teams or some of the best teams have had really good leadership on the offensive line. Guys that, your offensive line and defensive lines really set the standard when it comes to physicality and creating your identity. When you got a bunch of guys, to me, that have a high standard of character and love Alabama, embrace the coaches that come in and want to help lay the foundation for that new coach. I think that's, if you had one position group that you needed on board to get that done and set the standard, to me, would be the O-line. I mean, that's got to be your most consistent position group on the field. If they're out of whack, then you're just not going to win ball games. And so to have those guys around, help recruit, help keep that nucleus of that team together, I think they may be our best unit on the field this upcoming year.
Yeah, I do too. And the other thing,
and I tell you what I have been hearing too, the secondary, we've been talking about how how we're nervous about the secondary, but I'm hearing obviously Malachi Moore is going to be he's dominant, and we expect him to have a good year. I hear Keon Sabb is coming in and looking really, really good. Really? Kind of help set the tone back there. And then, the corners, those young corners, from what I hear, we got a bunch of hardworking, grinding young guys who are picking up things really well. And from what I hear, Kane's doing a good job, getting those guys on the same page, and they're playing pretty fast right now. So, we're looking at this is only week 1 of camp, and sounds like they've picked up a lot through the summer, and looking better than what we thought they'd be so far. Now, I mean, look, we hadn't played anybody else in a different color jersey, so you never know. But sounds like we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, well, I mean, then the schedule comes out, the first game on the 31st against Western Kentucky. I think we talked about this before, kind of the final topic, but I don't look at Western Kentucky as a cupcake. They're one of those schools that, especially early in the year, can give you a lot of trouble. They don't have the depth that a team in the SEC would. And I know things are different now with NIL deals because some of their best players may go to other schools and transfer out. But at the same time, over the years, these teams can give you a lot of trouble. I think of them. I think of years where Southern Miss has been good. Middle Tennessee could be a team to jump up and get you. Appy State, there's like a group of these teams I look at and I go, man, if you're not ready, you could get beat by them.
Yeah, I mean,
well, you disagree with me. I can tell by that face.
Yeah, I mean, if you get beat by them, you're in a lot of trouble. I mean, and look, I got a lot of respect for a lot of guys that have played at smaller schools. I don't mean any disrespect by it, but it's when you're a championship caliber team, you just got a lot more depth than any other, than the schools that are outside of the Power Five. And so, the problem to me is when you got a bunch of young guys who the emblem on the helmet goes a lot further to them than it really should, and in reality how far it really goes. I mean, you still got to go play games, and you still got to come out and dominate. I mean, it's not good to be in a 2-touchdown, 1 to 2 possession game with a Western Kentucky or a Middle Tennessee. I mean, and usually that's a lack of focus. That's not being physical. That's overlooking this game to get to Wisconsin or Georgia, or just looking past it. So I mean, that's Coach Saban always talk about the process, and that means not overlooking teams. Have the best practice today that you can possibly have, the best practice tomorrow you can possibly have, and play the best game you can have, no matter who the opponent is. So, I mean, look, in no way am I thinking that we're getting beat by Western Kentucky, but I just hope we come out, hitting on all cylinders. But we beat Middle Tennessee by how many touchdowns, in week 1 last year, and then we come out, we don't play very well against Texas, and those games are when you really figure out who's who and who's going to show up and play, is those big games. And then we play South Florida and, beat them by a touchdown. It was 17-10 last year. Is that right?
Yeah.
We got to come out and find our identity, find our groove and play within our system and dominate that way. Find out what our strengths are, stay away from the weaknesses, and that takes big games to get there. Bunch of young guys. Hope we don't, come out flat and slow against Western Kentucky, but I don't know, man. I don't take a whole lot from those games, just because they're just different scenarios than a Texas or a Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think people dive into that a little bit too much. I mean, we've seen guys that played well in those games and ultimately got benched, or guys that played terrible in those games and ultimately, beat a lot of good teams. So I think you learn the most from those big games.
Nick Saban didn't lose the little games. He just didn't. And I'm curious to see what the Kalen DeBoer formula is going to be. Because Nick Saban did the best job ever of getting teams ready for those type of games. And this, you talked about it. When you were playing someone that you guys should destroy, every little thing was going to be pointed out that you didn't do right. And it was going to be a whole week of that. So we'll see what DeBoer does.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure everybody's going to be fired up because it's the first game ever for DeBoer and the first game of the season. But maybe the second game's one that you go into and things change. I don't know, but it's going to be a lot of fun though watching this offense because the pieces are falling into place, and it's good to hear that. And I figured that the safety spot would be one that Alabama would do okay in with Malachi Moore and Keon Sabb. You hate to lose Caleb Downs, but you know what? Cornerback's going to be the area where Alabama and pass rush, right? Where if Alabama does those things well, the defense could be really, really good this year, despite losing, some of your best players, including Dallas Turner to the NFL. But final thoughts, man. Here we've hit our 25-minute window that we were allotted today.
After hearing what I'm hearing, I feel much better about what we perceived as possible weaknesses. Moving into the first of the season, the secondary and the receiving core was what I was most nervous about, and not from a talent perspective. I mean, we got a ton of talent. It's just getting on the same page and progressing through camp. And it's probably a little too early to tell, but from what I'm hearing from all those indications, looking like we're able to move forward a lot quicker based on what guys have picked up on and what they're comfortable with. So, it's all promising, but man, I'm ready for some football.
Guys, we appreciate you being here with us. Couple of things. Our show's presented by Rhoback.com. Promo code ROOM20. Actually, someone tweeted at me, and they had their sticker, and they used ROOM20 to get 20% off their order at Rhoback.com. So thank you, and thank all of you guys.
I need to respond to that. I wanted to have you've seen Rookie of the Year, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's the manager that says he comes up with a new invention of hot ice? And he goes, the good stuff. I was going to put a meme out there, but I couldn't find one. I know, I'm an idiot.
That's what people love about the show. You're pushing Rhoback with hot ice. All right. Also, mybookie.ag, use the promo code next round for a generous offer on your wagers there at mybookie.ag. And man, we appreciate both of those guys for helping us get this thing going. For Jay Coker, I'm Mick Gillispie. We will talk to you again soon. Roll Tide, everybody.
Roll Tide.